Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Times Hour. All right, B, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please give a very warm welcome to our next player on the tee and one of the most important pioneers in flying disc sports in the Pacific Northwest. Since the dawn of the Frisbee time, she's been kicking grass and making a name as the captain of the pre-beveled 70s Super Squad and the visionary leader and director of Flow. She began as one of those hippy-dippy kids from Shorecrest High, getting high on tea and skipping the pep rally to play with the B. In no time at all, she mastered flatball and became the five-time Washington State women's overall champ and the one to light and lift the lamp for all to see the path ahead in her glow. Ding dong, here comes the Mahjong blaster and
On the
world-class
Frisbee
Frisbee
time.
master to spin a few amazing tales and send us into gales of laughter over all things Frisbee matter. Ladies and gentlemen, she's traded mountains for mesas and rains like perennial fountains for dry spaces and mile-high places. On the tee, from Sun City, Arizona, Sheryl Payne Newland.
Thank you for that intro. I, I was looking forward to what you were going to say.
All right, did it
Um,
live up to some of its standards?
yeah, I like you. You got my high school in there. Yeah, I was a mountain climber. You got all sorts of things in there.
He
And
does
since
some digging.
since we just met 5 minutes ago, that was pretty good.
Well, this is what you can expect from Paul, for sure.
I try. I try to make an effort, and hopefully it works out. So thank you for taking the time to join with us to talk all things frisbee, and we've got just a lot of great stories up ahead. So before we even start into that, Mace, why don't you tee up the framework here?
All right, so Cheryl is originally from Seattle, and she's now living in Sun City, Arizona. But you spend half the year up there in Seattle, or you just go up for a few months, or
Half the year in Arizona in the winter and spring, and half the year in Seattle in summer and fall.
you got to go up north when it's not tolerable in Arizona?
Yeah, and it's beautiful in Seattle in summer, so.
Right on. So is there, I'm sure you know the answer to this, but you're a world-class frisbee master, and possibly you were the first husband and wife that were world-class frisbee masters. Is that true, or
Oh, um I don't know about that. I never really thought about it. So
here's something to research.
Okay.
I have to research that. Doug, my husband gave me my tests, and so um I know I have one of them around here somewhere. Oh,
Oh yeah, visual aids.
Oh,
my
look at
frisbee.
that.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
So yeah, it's got Stork's name on it and everything.
Wow. That's done up, eh?
Two IFA ones. This one has a gold hot stamp, and then there's one with a black hot stamp.
Wow.
I don't know what my IFA number was. It's not written on here, but yeah, it's fun to find all the old stuff. I was having a field day looking for it all.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Well, and didn't you send me some photos the other night of some t-shirts, or did I see that somewhere else?
Oh, that was on Facebook. I was in my free time, I work on old frisbee t-shirts and trying to make a quilt or two.
Yeah, those
Um,
are good. My mom makes those, and me and my brother have her logged up for a couple each. So
yeah, to iron on stuff on t-shirts in order to get them to be, easier to work with. So that's what I'm doing right now.
right on, that's very cool.
They were
So,
all the world's championship ones, I think you saw.
Oh, nice.
oh, right on. So you were the mistress of all trades, helping develop the Seattle Frisbee scene. You were the secretary of the Olympic Windjammers Frisbee Club, and then the editor of the Jammer Journal, and five-time Washington State women's overall champion.
Yeah,
And
so where do you
then,
start at the beginning?
We well, let's start with the PDJ number. That's a good
yeah,
story.
that's a good one. Number 76.
Yeah, I'm number 76. Yeah. My
Yeah.
husband was for 16.
Well,
So,
tell the story.
oh, okay. Well, back in the day, it wasn't a thing, and Ed offered Doug a low number, like under 10, and he said, He said, no, I want 16. I want sweet 16. And so that's what he got. And so I didn't join right away. I was a poor college student, so I didn't have the money at the time or something. So I think I phoned Ed up and said, okay, I want to join. And I don't remember the number that he was at that time. But I said, well, I want to pick my number like Doug. He picked 16. So it was just the bicentennial for America. So I said, I want number 76. So that's the one I got. And then, Doug got a free t-shirt with his. And so I didn't get one. And I was a little miffed. So I called Ed back up and said, hey, what's the deal, dude? I never got my t-shirt. And he goes, oh, well, only the first 75 people got the t-shirt. And I went,
Damn. So you couldn't have his?
I said, well, you never told me that when I called. And so you screwed me out of a shirt. So he sent me a shirt. So that was fine.
Technically, you were still amongst the first 75 because you requested 76. So you hadn't even, like, the numbers hadn't even got to that high yet. You probably.
But I don't know where they were, to be honest.
But that's funny.
But I mean, I just read where someone online on Facebook this week said that they had called Stork and wanted to join. And Stork said, well, you have to pick a number above 1,000 because we just gave out number 1,000. So he picked 2,000. He could have had 1,001.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing with the number is that we've found what? I mean, I'm just pulling a number out of the air, but it seems like about 75% to 85% of the 75 to 80% of the people have a story about when they got their number. It could have been lower if I had done this. And the thing that's really cool is that story is as big as the fish you didn't catch. I mean, it's just there's so many different ones, and that's just another good story to be telling, I feel.
Right. I mean, that's my story. But of course, Susie Horn will, yeah, sure, Sheryl, sure. Oh, yeah. And then I don't tell the story anymore because every time I do, they give me crap. And then Titi says, oh, Sheryl just slept with Ed Hedrick or something.
Oh.
That shuts me up. I'm not anymore because that didn't happen. But that's just what they say to shut me down.
So we're obviously Doug is going to be a bit of a presence throughout the whole hour and a half, however long we have you here. And he was such an amazing, important influence in the Frisbee scene and a Hall of Famer in the first class of Hall of Fame. But I really like how you guys met. I like the story you told on the Scott Stokely podcast about you meet in college. Doug's a little bit older than you, and you have a geology class together. And Doug's always bringing his frisbee with him. You never grew up with a frisbee. You grew up in a lot of other sports. Your parents, your grandparents owned a roller rink, and your mom
owned a skating rink, and I grew up there. That was my first sport. And then when my mother divorced my father and remarried, my stepfather was big on sports. He was good in sports in upstate New York, where he was from. So he was a baseball coach, a little league coach. So girls couldn't play on little league teams back then, but I practiced with them all week, but I couldn't be in their games. So I was the shortstop, and I was really good. And so yeah, I was bummed that a couple years later, a girl did sue and won and got to be on the Little League team. And I always secretly wished it had been us, my stepfather doing that with me, because I like hardball better than softball. Softball, the ball's too big. And I don't know, I had to play that when I was older, but I didn't really enjoy it. And then I did in high school a ton of other sports. So
anything frisbee wasn't part of that, right? Like frisbee wasn't in your world.
Did you find that picture of us? We did have the one picture 1971, we had a frisbee football team at my high school.
Okay.
Because we didn't know about ultimate, but we played our version of it, and we would do it when they had a pep rally in the gym, because we were hippies and we didn't like the pep rally. So we'd go up on the field and play frisbee football. But so that was the first introduction. And then, yeah, I was in college, excuse me, I was on the volleyball team, field hockey team, and fencing team when I met Doug. And I had done all of those in high school and played AAU and everything. So I was an athlete. And so when we took this geology class, and it didn't meet during the week. It was only on the weekends. And every weekend for 10 weeks, we went on field trips all around the state. And we learned about geology, which was really fun. And he always brought a frisbee. And that's what he and his friends were always throwing and playing with. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and play with them. So I picked it up and I sucked. I threw it way far away, and I was like, oh, it's weird. Why can't I throw this? Because I'm good at sports, So, of course, they kind of looked at me like they were having a hard time, so I left. And about that time, we were on campus at the University of Washington and in Red Square, and it was a Sunday afternoon, much like today. I mean, today it's nice here, it's 75 degrees. But it wasn't
Not that
that
nice here, but it's beautiful here still, just the same.
So they're in Red Square, and there's hardly any people there, and that's where we played. And up walks this man, hippie dude, older guy with a beard and bandana on, and he's got a 75 Rose Bowl t-shirt on, and he's got a disc, and he's tipping it and kicking it and doing these tricks, and we're like looking at him like, who in the hell is that? We've never seen this guy before. Well, it was Ralph Williamson.
Nice.
So that's the day we met Ralph, and then we became fast friends. And Doug found out all about the Rose Bowl, and we talked to him because he was kind of maybe the first guy in Seattle to play a lot. So he introduced us to it, and going to tournaments. Ralph went in his van up and down the West Coast. He worked at Boeing. He was a technical writer. So he always did top secret stuff that he could never tell us about.
Okay.
He thought that was fascinating. So we started playing at Green Lake, which is still where the hub of freestyle is in Seattle. Every weekend, Doug and I both had frisbee dogs, and we would bring them, and then people would do freestyle, jamming, whatever. And then one day we had heard about Ultimate, but we didn't know how to play. So one day this guy walks up to Jeff Jorgensen and goes, hey, I just graduated from Cornell, and I played Ultimate for 4 years, and I could teach you guys how to play. So he told Doug, and Doug said, oh man, you're hired. So that was Bill Nye, the science guy.
But he was known as the Ramblin' Guy back then.
Bill Nye, Ramblin' Guy back then.
Was that because he just liked to ramble on in strange utterances?
Oh, what he did is he would imitate Steve Martin 24/7.
That's what it was. Okay.
So he was a great imitator of Steve Martin. He could nail it, He just didn't look like him. So
Not at all.
Sorry, I've been sick all week, so
No worries.
You and me both.
Now, listen, before we get too much further, I want to take you back to that first time when you try to get close to Doug and you're playing really bad and you get kind of shamed a way to go away. But you being a natural athlete, you compensated and learned and really developed your skill quickly to the point where you could go back and actually play, hold your head up high and play catch decently, throw the disc decently.
Okay, well, the other thing you probably don't know about that story, the first time I saw Doug was in a large room, and I saw him from across the room, and my best friend was sitting next to me, and she was talking to me, and I wasn't paying, I was just looking at him from across the room. So I hadn't even heard him talk yet or anything. He was wearing an anorak, so you could just see his little face. And she
What's
goes,
an
hello.
anorak?
He goes, hello, what's going on? Anybody home in here? And I said, you see that guy over there? And I pointed him out, and she goes, yeah. And I said, I actually said I'm going to marry him.
Oh,
Wow.
Started laughing, right? She goes, yeah, right. So she was my maid of honor.
Well, she better be. I mean, she was there when you decided, so.
I know.
that's awesome.
So, I mean, that we didn't get married for a long time, but Doug was never going to get married. That was his whole shtick. And his parents believed it because they heard it so long. So anyway, and we're in this geology class, and he's playing frisbee all the time, and I go and I suck at it. And so I'm determined, well, if I'm going to marry this guy, I better learn how to throw this thing. So Ralph was actually teaching a class in the experimental college at the UW. So I took it because it was in the winter and it was indoors. And so I learned all the throws, overhand wrist flip, backhand sidearm, skip shots, upside downers. I learned it all from Ralph.
Nice.
So next time I came back to play, all of a sudden I was pretty good. So it was like, whoa, what happened to you?
All of a sudden, now you're getting noticed.
Yeah. And so, and I was still an athlete at college at the time. So, but it was slowly dawning on me that, hey, this frisbee stuff's pretty fun.
Right on.
So about that time, we had our first Washington State overall tournament in May of 1976. And it was, well, here was
Nice.
Casey.
yes. Okay, it was put on by Shelley Morrison, who I've always wondered, was she related to Fred Morrison? Because she had a Whammo connection. So I'm going to have to ask Stork that. I mean, there may be maybe that they were related or maybe not, who knows. But she was worked at this radio station, and she put on the tournament. And Doug somehow met her, and he was in charge of the frisbee dog tournament part, which actually made the newspaper, big pictures. It was on the news and everything. There was a lot of dogs in the tournament. And then Doug and his friends designed a really nice course in Lower Woodland Park that is still one of my favorite courses. Some of the holes have changed, but most of them are still there. But it was a natural object course. It was all trees with tape. But it was a long course, but it was fun. And so that was at the tournament. And then we had other events too. I don't remember all of them. But so I became the first overall women's champion. Now,
Nice.
all of Seattle expected Doug to win the disc golf part. But that didn't happen. And it was kind of a bizarre thing happened. This man walked up that nobody knew, and he was real nerdy, thick glasses, very quiet, and he won disc golf. And his name was Steve Slazer.
Awesome. Love
Right?
Steve.
And so Steve had been living in Bellevue and didn't know anybody. So I didn't know how Doug would react because he beat him, handily. And Doug surprised me. He opened him with welcome arms, became his mentor, taught him all about the tournaments, taught him about competition.
Didn't he win a world championship at one point?
Yeah, probably. I wasn't involved back then at that time, but I think he did, yeah. He ended up moving. Well, he moved to Florida.
Yeah, I met him down there.
Yeah, I lost track of him. I have his phone number. I've tried calling him, but I haven't got him yet. So, but yeah, so that's how we met Steve. So that summer was my first North American Series event in Boulder, Colorado. And Doug had gone to college in Colorado Springs. In fact, that's where he and Joe Fight became good friends. So Doug introduced Joe Fight to disc golf, but not till much later. So Doug, I think, drove there, and then I was working at Outward Bound in Eugene, Oregon. So I flew there, and I was real excited to meet all these women I'd only read about in, Frisbee World magazine. All the big ones were there. Monica Liu, Joe Cahow, Cindy Birch, Michelle Pizzoli, Gail McCall, Tita Ugalde. And I was kind of wowed,
Understandably so.
So the disc golf course was on campus at the university in Boulder, and it was natural logic course. And I had practiced it, so I knew it. And I totally choked. I got last place in disc golf. Nobody knew me, so I didn't need to be embarrassed because they didn't know me at all. But they didn't know that I was really a good golfer yet. So I'm at the awards banquet sitting with Monica Liu, who befriended me right away. She was someone, I was pretty good friends with. And so we were talking and, just getting to know each other. And I said, I totally choked today. I feel terrible about it. And she goes, well, that happens. She goes, what are you going to do about it? And I said, well, I'm going to come back next year and I'm going to win. And she goes, well, good. Okay. So I did come the next year. And
there it is.
Well, yeah.
Hold on, show it.
Okay, there's the real one.
Nice visual aids.
Yep, I had it ready.
Sorry to steal your thunder on that one, Sheryl.
So I did come back the next year and win it. Only they had a real big problem in the men's golf final. The the leading scorer, or the guy who won, signed his scorecard with the wrong score on it. So it became a major ordeal. And players, all the men, had to meet for 2 hours that night to decide what to do. Because maybe that had never happened before. So
it sounds like it.
Yeah, the sport was young, right? They didn't have very many rules yet. So I forget. I think they decided that, he still won, I guess. I don't remember who it was. So you probably know. But they didn't hand out the men's trophy. So they didn't hand out the women's trophy either, which didn't make sense to me. So I never got it. They were going to send it to me. Now, back then, they had the coolest trophies of anybody. They were hand thrown on a wheel. They were made of clay, and they were really pretty. and I never got it. And it was a craw in my, just kept being mad that I never got my trophy. So Bill Wright heard about it, and we somehow contacted each other, and that's when he made that one and sent it to me. So I got my trophy, and it's
Nice.
bigger and probably better than the original one.
Ah, there you go.
But it
So
was
let's-
first time winning a disc golf major event. So
Right.
that's
Well, and backing up the statement, come back a year later, and you certainly did. So that's a
yeah.
great story.
Now we've got, I know that you've got, and you've told at length one of the stories about this nickname, but you've got two great nicknames, and maybe Mace, you want to jump in on that.
Yeah, for sure. So there you do have at least two great nicknames. I don't know if there's more, but these two are really going to cover a lot of ground. And so why don't you go ahead and tell us the story about your original nickname of Moped Mama?
Well, Moped Mama, let's see. There was a tournament that Tom McCran put on in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. It was a frisbee festival. And there was
1979.
1979. And the winner of the men and women's disc golf got a moped. It was a German one. And so on the first day, it was a shorter finesse course. So on the first day, I was in the lead for the women, but I also beat a lot of the men. I beat Doug,
Nice.
which didn't go over real well with him. And then the next day, I had another good round, so I won for the women, and then I think Snap won for the men. So they sent me my moped, and I had it put together at a bike shop, and I used it because I didn't have a car, so I used it for everything. And I was near my house, a couple blocks away, and there was snow on the ground. And I hit some ice and fishtailed, so I was going to fall. So I stuck my right leg out, and it just kind of pivoted, and I fell. And I sprained my back pretty bad. But this is before cell phones, so I knew I just needed to get home. So I jumped back on my bike, took off, made it home, walked in the house, and collapsed on the floor. So it took several months, of going to the chiropractor all the time, and I recovered. And I never knew the rest of the story for Snap. Like Snap heard a story that I broke my back. And so he never wanted to get his moped. He never had it sent. So I don't know what they did with it. So I didn't hear that story till 10 years ago when we were in Portland at Nationals together, and he told me. And I was like, what? And he goes, well, that was before computers and before cell phones. And he goes, that's what I heard. So I said, no, I'm fine. I'm back competing. I'm doing stuff. And yeah, so I was called Moped Mama for a while after that. And then my other nickname was Boxcar Mama.
Yes, and this is an even better story.
Yeah, because you well, I couldn't afford to go to one of the tournaments. It was Irvine in March, I think.
That was one of the 50K ones, right?
Might have been. I don't know, maybe not. I don't think it could have been, because it wasn't the same year, 79. So anyway, Irvine, I think, was the first tournament of the year, and then Santa Barbara was after that. Anyway, so Ralph was going, and Doug, and a bunch of people, and Pete Foose and I, there's a name. Do you know Pete Foose?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, Pete Foose and I didn't have any money to go, so we couldn't go, and we were really bummed. So Pete comes up to me and says, hey, if I find a free way to go, will you go with me? And I said, sure. So I forgot about it, and I came home from work one night, and there was his car in my driveway, and I went, "Oh no!" Like, uh, Pete is here. Wonder what's happening. So I walk in the house, and he says, "Hey, Sheryl, um, I've been scoping out in the train yard all day in Seattle, and we're gonna hop a freight train to LA." And okay. Oh, where I have a picture. Some of my friends had hopped a freight train the summer before. And so they had me make them some hammocks to hang in the boxcar so they could sleep. So here's a picture of one of my with one
Wow.
of Sue Stadler. And they put a piece of wood in it to keep it from collapsing over. It was made out of ripstop nylon. And so I thought, okay, well, I have friends who've already hopped a freight train. Okay, I'll do it. I'm game. I didn't have any hammocks because we were leaving like that night or in the morning. I think in the morning. Anyway, so no cell phones. I couldn't call Doug and tell him, hey, we're gonna hop a freight train. And I didn't tell my mother because I didn't want her to freak out. So
For obvious reasons, you didn't tell your mother. Yeah.
no, I'll tell her when I get back.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
so um so yeah, we went and hopped a freight train, and it was so much fun. Only I was pretty naive. I didn't realize, I probably should have brought a handgun or something. I mean, a woman traveling on a train with a bunch of hobo men, not very safe. And like
Right.
every time, I motion, I just go to sleep a lot. So I was sleeping a lot. But I'd wake up, the train would be stopped, and Pete would be nowhere to be found. And he's off talking to the conductors and the engineers and leaving me all alone. And I'm like, and I'm 4'11". I can't jump out of the boxcar and make it back in on my own.
How did you get
I
in the first place?
Well, he helps me,
Oh,
he
okay.
pulls, and so that was another interesting thing. Like, when you're on a trip, on a long one from Seattle, what do you do when you have to go to the bathroom? Well, you wait till the train stops out in the middle of nowhere and you jump out and go, and then you jump back on really quick. And so one time I had to pee, and I jumped off, and the train started up. And so I couldn't go. I had to pull my pants up and run. And Pete barely got me back in time.
Oh my goodness. This is greatness.
And so then we talked about, well, what are we going to do if I don't make it back in? And he goes, well, then I throw our stuff out and I jump out because, I can't just leave you. And I go, yeah. So I don't remember too much problems with it, but so it wasn't an issue other than that one time. So, because the train does stop and, add more boxcars on and stuff. So, and the other thing was I knew from my friends going that you have to put a piece of wood in the tracks so that the vibration doesn't shut the door on you so that you're stuck in there because they're very heavy, the door. So we did that right away. And then to pass the time during the day, the next day, we played this game. It didn't have a name, but we'd be each at one end of the boxcar, and we'd throw a frisbee, but it had to bounce off the side to the next person. And the game was to see how close you could get to the door and not lose your disc. And so we would start further back, kind of how they do in tennis when they're warming up and they're hitting the ball in front of the back line, and then the next one they get closer and closer, and then they back off again. Well, we were doing that. We never lost a disc, so we
Wow.
got quite good at it.
That's pretty amazing. I think I'd have thrown the first one out the window, like just because. I mean, not because I wanted to, just because that's what happens to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we had some with us, but not a lot. Back in those days, okay. my golf disc was a 76 Rose Bowl disc, a 119. And that was my driver, my approach shot, and my putter. I mean, I
Right.
had a second one in case it got lost, but oh, I forgot to show you my moped mama picture.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
I found that, yeah. So anyway, so we get to the tournament late and we can't enter the golf tournament. And word spreads crazily. We're all dirty. We've got soot all over our faces. We're a mess, but we have big smiles on our faces. We had
Yeah.
so fun, right, doing this. So we're walking around the course and I see Doug and he looks at me like you did what? And it was so much fun. And he's just like shaking his head like he can't. So we did get a ride home from Ralph and all the regulars, but yeah, that was my more memorable how to get to a tournament story.
How long were you on that train for?
I think it was a day and a half.
Wow.
We got snowed on in Southern Oregon or somewhere.
Wow.
So then I was called Boxcar Mama for a long time.
And rightfully so. I mean, that's one of the greatest stories. I mean, I told you the other day, and it's worth repeating. One of my favorite episodes so far was when I just let it record when you guys were signing those autographs in the green room at the women's
US
US Women's Championships last fall. And when you told that story, I was just blown away by it. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, I forgot to show you my PDGA. Here's my 119 and here's my 141.
Wow.
So my nesting set.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here's what, Tita showed you the master. That's what we first started playing with.
That's what I started with too when I was a kid.
I remember seeing those for sale at the local variety store, for sure.
That's what people used for Ultimate too back in fact, it has an Ultimate sticker on it, the Eastern Nationals or something. Anyway.
That's a good segue. Talking about Ultimate, you not only did you have Bill Nye, the Rambling Guy, as your Ultimate coach, but you have the distinction of possibly being the first woman to ever score a point in an Ultimate game or a men's Ultimate game.
Well, I would have to ask TK if that's really true.
It makes for a good story, though.
I don't know if there's a way they can look up who was on all the teams, but I do have a picture of our team. And I'm in the center front. You see me?
Yeah.
And then Bill Nye is second from the end.
Oh, there he is. You could tell that. Yep.
Yeah. He would often come to practice with an arrow through the head. Steve Martin, that was one of his things too. So, here you're trying to be serious and learn how to play from this guy that's got an arrow through his head. And you're like, Bill, but he was always being silly and telling jokes and, yeah. So, but it was fun. We learned how to play. And so I traveled with the men down to Santa Barbara. And we're playing in a game. And the thing about if you're a woman on a men's team is the men kind of just disregard you and they don't pay any attention. So I'm not a fast runner. I have very short legs. So I wasn't viewed as a threat. But I somehow ran down to the other end of the field and somebody threw a long bomb to me and I scored. And so some of the men on my team walked up to me and goes, "Hey, I think you're the first woman to ever score a goal in the Western Nationals." And I said, and I went, "Wow, cool," because there weren't any other women on the other teams that we were playing. The Santa Barbara Condors were the ones to beat, and they had a women's team. So Now, I did start a women's ultimate team in Seattle. And somewhere is written down the date. We were called the Northern Flights. There were 14 women, but the nearest team of women to play with was Santa Barbara. So we never had enough. We just had an intra-squad game and so we never played another team. But that was the first official women's team. And then I think Sky was another team that came after that.
So, but before we get too far away from that point, not only did you run down to the end zone, but you tell the story quite nicely with Stokely, and you say that there was a huge bomb of a throw to get down to you, but it started towering in the air.
Oh yeah. No, that is one of my best frisbee moments in my life. It was a halftime show in the Seattle Kingdom for the
Right.
Okay, that's what it is.
Founder Soccer Club. And they love to have our ultimate team come do halftime shows because it was a lot like soccer and they got really into it. And this one time, it was like the third time we went. I was down in the end zone being ignored again. And I don't remember. See, in the Kingdom, the wind swirls around. It's not like being outside. It's harder to throw a long bomb in it. So it caught the air and it floated. And so, the whole crowd saw that they were throwing it to me and they were excited that I was going to score. But it hung in the air and floated down slowly and gave everybody time to get down. They surrounded me, right? The men. And they all wanted that disc. So they all jumped around me and they jumped too soon because they were hungry for it. So they were coming down to the ground and I'm in the middle and I shot up and all you could see was my hand. And I caught the disc and then they all came down and peeled off. And I'm left standing and the place goes nuts.
Nice.
I can believe that I caught that disc. And Bill Knox, Dennis Buckley were right there by me and they go, oh, they said, how did you catch that? And I said, well, guys, timing. Timing
is everything. I mean, how in physics is someone going to catch or be guarded successfully, be able to catch successfully when you're being guarded by someone as tall as Stork? He's on his knees and he's still just about as tall as you are. So I think that's one of the greatest stories out there, that you're like the Brer Rabbit. You outwitted them all.
Well, being a volleyball player, I was good at jumping. And I was also on the track and field team. I was the hurdler. So I have this picture.
There it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Again, I'm stealing your thunder. Sorry. Susie Horn just sent me that earlier or yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, that was in Frisbee World magazine. Stork came up to our North American series meet. I think it was 1978. And it was Sunday. And actually, that is the same day when we took that picture. It was near the women's DDC court that the women's games were going on. And this film crew came and they were filming the women. So I walked up to them and I go, who are you guys? What are you doing? Because you guys didn't talk to us about this. At a tournament, you're supposed to talk to the tournament director. And they go, oh, we're from a new network called ESPN. And this is our first sporting event that we're going to cover.
Wow.
I go, okay, like we didn't know what that was. And they said, well, it's going to be sports 24/7. And we were laughing. We were like, oh, that'll never catch on.
Yeah. 3 networks later.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
4.
So that was the same day. So Stork, got on his knees and did that. Now we've redone a newer version of it, but he's shrunk a little bit, so he's not tall. And I haven't shrunk in order to match him. So anyway, but no, we love that picture. I love it. So,
So one of the things that comes through both in your stories and also just reading the journal, the Jammer journal from back in the day, is you're very much about, I don't want to say activism in general, but you were very concerned for women representation and getting women, divisions. I mean, the $50,000 tournament was biggest, richest tournament on the planet, and they didn't even think to offer a separate women's division. But it started in '77 at the Rose Bowl with the idea of flow. I wonder if you could talk to us about flow and about what you did to help get that off the ground and what flow has kind of meant for the women
well,
involved.
a lot of women, we would talk at tournaments and stuff, and there wouldn't be very many women there. And, we were trying to get it more organized and, get the word out and get more women involved. Because, often we would get no prize money, no nothing. So yeah, I guess that just kind of bothered me. So I, at the Rose Bowl, talked with all the women, and we decided to form a group called the Flying Disc League of Women. And I was the newsletter editor and kind of in charge. And I did a newsletter. Um, yeah, in fact, well, one has the picture of me in Stork. Anyway, so this big $50,000 tournament was coming up. Here's my little scorecard.
Oh, cool.
I had a small poster. And it had no women's division. So I wrote a big letter to Bob Gardner at Whammo. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
It was February 24th, 1979. My name is Sheryl Payne, and I am the director of the Flying Disc League of Women, otherwise known as FLOW. FLOW was formed last year at the World Frisbee Disc Championships by all of the women invited to compete. This organization consists mainly of women and men who play Frisbee disc competitively, from the national level on down to the state level and below. Recently, I received information on the Whammo $50,000 Invitational Disc Golf Tournament, which Ed Hedrick is putting on in LA, May 15th to the 20th. I noticed that each of his 28 qualifying tournaments around the country, that there was a women's division. However, it could not earn you an invitation to that tournament, in which there is no women's division. This confused me as to Whammo's policies. In the past, Whammo and the IFA have sponsored the North American Series meets and the prestigious World Frisbee Disc Championships, both which had a separate women's division. At last year's World Frisbee Championship, the women received equal prize money as did the men. The IFA gives out equal trophies and prizes at all of the National Series meets. Suddenly, Whammo is sponsoring a large money tournament in which it is not equal, there being no women's division. Does this represent a change in policy regarding women that Whammo is implementing? Pertaining specifically to the disc golf tournament, it wasn't PDGA then, men have a certain power advantage over women in that not all DGA courses are short accuracy courses. In a telephone conversation with Ed Hedrick on Monday, February 12th, he said unless a woman places first, second, or third in a qualifying tournament, no women will be invited. He also explained that he wanted this to be like a ball golf predecessor. Frisbee disc players pride themselves in a truly unique sport in which any age and sex can play. It is a sport which has purposely tried to be unlike traditional sports in that there are no officials, rough contact, or other negative aspects of competition. Women compete side by side with men at the top tournaments, so why should we change that now in an attempt to upgrade the money element in our sport? I understand Whammo's intentions of sponsoring a tournament of this magnitude. All the television, radio, newspaper, magazine coverage, the advertising, sales, etc. But Ed did not give me one single reason why women needed to be excluded. Women could only help the public relations, advertising, sales, and competition. I agree with everything pertaining to the tournament, except the lack of a women's division, and Ed Hedrick's attitude of, I'll do what I want because it's my tournament. Since this is the first real big tournament of its kind, it is important that it comes off well. I don't see where the inclusion of women would change that at all, as just the opposite is the case, I believe. My suggestion is to guarantee the women of 5 invitations minimum, which would represent 3% of the entrants and give them 3% of the total purse. So Bob Gardner wrote me a letter back saying, Sheryl, I was quite impressed with your well thought out letter and your logical arguments from your point of view on the forthcoming $50,000 disc golf tournament. Without going into the pros and cons of your letter and the policy of WAMO, which incidentally has not changed in their regards to women, I think it is easiest to say that any woman that qualifies at the regional level will be allowed, which is only fair, to compete in May. We will take under consideration the invitation of the top best women disc golf champions on the same criteria as those of the men being invited. At this point, we do not intend to set up a separate division, but the play will be side by side. After all, this is not a power game necessarily, but it is a game of skill, ability, and strategy, making for equality between men and women. If your suggestion is correct, then it is only reasonable that we should also have a separate division for masters, senior masters, juniors, etc. Rather than do this, we want a tournament that is open to all and equal to everyone. I do appreciate your suggestion and your concern. I further hope you will continue to make them in the future. I look forward to meeting you in the near future and working with Flo for our mutual benefit. Sincerely, Robert P. Gardner.
Nice. That's cool.
Okay, then I was reading, let's see, where is it? And oh, there it is. So I put in the Flow newsletter an emergency mail-in letters to Bob Gardner at WAMO by all the women across the country, and to have them sign a petition asking for a women's division and get as many women's signatures as they could. So everybody flooded WAMO with these.
Nice.
They then decided to have a women's division. So
Nice.
they paid our entry fee and they paid our airfare.
Wow.
They didn't have prize money, but we got to be there, right? Which made them look good. And then afterwards, Bob wrote me another letter August 9th. This is just a quick note thanking you for your very kind letter of July 30th. I am really glad you enjoyed yourself at the golf tournament. I too learned a great deal about the different levels of competition, and hopefully next time we will do a lot better job. But life is a learning process, and if we keep making progress, I guess that's what it's all about. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the WFC, and I really do want to set aside some time to spend with you and the other girls and talk about as many things as you want for as long as you want.
Nice.
Yeah, anyway. So here's my second place trophy.
Ah, there you
Nice. That's cool.
go. It
So yeah,
didn't take too long for some of the older farts on the tour to subvert the letters of flow and create their own offshoot group. Was it all in good jest, the creation of Wolf, or were you guys kind of disgruntled at them?
oh no,
coming up
Wolf, I mean Ralph, I think started Wolf, and what happened is they wanted to use the same letters as Flo. So Ralph, one day we were out golfing, and Ralph goes, "So Sheryl, the seniors are going to be the Wolves because we, oh, they always are doing that, right? So we're going to be WOLF, and So we've got wrinkled old something farts. That was what they had come up with. He goes, we can't figure out a word for L. And I said, oh, I've got one. And he goes, what? And I go, wrinkled old lecherous farts. So that's what it became because I threw in the L. No, so there was no animosity. That was fine. Yeah. So what Flo did was for a couple years, we had 2 Flo members at every big tournament to help, and whose job it was to help the tournament director do whatever they needed for women, you know, to help include more women and get more women involved. And so we kind of assigned we had an ultimate person, a woman in charge of that, and people, we had guts, we had, I think, I don't know if we had DDC representative. That was, maybe we didn't, but so we kind of did a lot for a couple years, and then it just kind of jumped out on its own. So our job was done. But you know, that's how that all got started anyway.
Well, certainly it's another brick in the wall of building up something, a base of history for the further development of women's participation in flying disc sports. And you know,
Right.
definitely I mean, the fact that you took it upon yourself to challenge WAMO on their decision to only offer the men's division at the biggest tournament out there, that just speaks volumes to your leadership and your personality and your charisma on that. That's amazing.
Well, there was another woman, I don't remember her name, I'm sorry, who was trying to do something, you know, back east somewhere. And when she saw what we were doing, then I think she realized that ours was bigger and more, you know, functional. And I mean, it started at the Rose Bowl and it went nationwide. And so I guess she stopped doing, but she had the same idea anyway. But I don't remember her name. I'm really bad at remembering names sometimes. So I mean,
I'm
I've
really
always,
good at not remembering names.
well, I've always been that way though. It's not something just because I'm older now.
Yeah, me
I'll,
too.
yeah. So I found this picture because when the disc pole baskets were new, uh
Yeah.
this was maybe the first birthday cake with a basket on it.
Wow.
Nice.
Made here in 1980. Okay. Yeah, here I am with 2 of our dogs, and yeah, so I got this beautiful cake Garo made for me. That was cool.
That's
She was
awesome.
from Chicago. She was a guts player, and she came out. Stuart called me one day and said, "Hey, Sheryl, this guts player, a woman from Chicago, is moving to Seattle. She's got a new job and she needs somewhere to stay." So I told her to call you up. So I said, "Oh, okay, sure, she can stay here till she, you know, gets settled and finds a place." Well, one of our friends at the house went down to, was it Guatemala? Because he found out one of his friends in the Peace Corps was going to get married and he was going to try and stop it. Uh, so, so I gave her his bedroom. I said, "Oh, you can just stay in there, you know." And we didn't know when Dennis was coming home, you know, because once again, no computers, no cell phones. So Pat stayed there. She got into this disc scene with us all, and you know, started working her new job. And she was in her room one night, and Dennis came home unannounced, and we were like, "Uh-oh, what's gonna happen?" And so we tell him there was a woman in his bed. He had a big brass bed. It was beautiful. So he goes, "Well, I'm really bushed. I'm really tired. I'm just going to go to bed." So we were at the kitchen table and we just smiled and go, "Okay." So he goes in his room, shuts the door. A couple minutes later, he comes out and he goes, "Sheryl, there's a woman in my bed." I go, "Yeah, Dennis, what's the problem?" And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he went back in his room, you know, and many years later they got married. So
Really? Wow. So you're a matchmaker too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Their son got married a couple during COVID, and I went to the wedding, and they said, Sheryl, you're kind of a person of honor at this marriage. I mean, my kids know that you introduced us, but,
Catalyst.
but we don't want you to tell them that story. And I said,
Wow.
okay, well, I don't think he's going to listen to this. So anyway,
Censorship guidelines.
so no,
That's I would definitely pass the statute of limitations for shame on that story for the people involved.
he'd be in big trouble. We'll see.
So, connection to there's two people we want to ask you about, and I'll start with the first, and Mace, you can jump into the other person we want to ask you about. But I want to ask you about Gail McCall, and I know there was a little tribute that I saw. I think it was in the Jomez Productions. You had a nice little quote. You talked about Gail being a warrior, a member of Flow, and you always remember her beautiful smile. What else can you tell us about Gail? I mean, she turns out that I went to the same high school as she did, so I have my own connection with her, and she was obviously one of the biggest names in Canadian for flying disc sports. But can you expand a bit more on Gail?
Well, she was kind of like Joe Cahow the second, right? A tall, thin woman with long blonde hair, beautiful to watch freestyle, real gifted in that way. And so, and then she and Jim Kenner were going to start a disc company. And this was when things got a little rough with Whammo and the players. And, she didn't back down from it. She said, no, it's time we have other discs manufacturers and open up the sport and all that. So let's see where I had something I was going to show you. Now it evades me. Anyway, it's right here. Okay, so I don't remember the year, but Doug and Ed Hedrick had a big fight. And they didn't talk to each other for a while because Ed was trying to start the Disc Golf Association and be the boss of it and everything. And, they were trying to figure out what kind of baskets we were going to use. And we had all these different kinds and saucer golf targets and other things. So Doug started the United States Disc Players Golf Association. And when he did that, Ed got really mad about it. And so it didn't really get off the ground because Ed's took off at the same time. So he became the standard. But that's why Ed and Doug didn't talk for a while. But then they made up because when we got married, we went down and stayed with Ed and we're in Lakeport and Doug, well, this is another weird story. Doug helped Ed put in a disc golf course in Lakeport. And I didn't do it. I stayed home, or I was in the factory that day talking with the guy that worked there. And we had fun. So Doug goes out and puts this course in with Ed, comes back, we take a shower together, and I noticed there's this little blister on his chest. And I go, what's that? And I popped it. Well, it was poison oak. He's in a nice hot shower and it spread. So for a couple days, he could just lay there. He was one giant scab and he was miserable. And yeah, that was pretty weird. That was on our honeymoon.
On your honeymoon.
One hell of a chapter of your honeymoon. Damn.
Well, I said if it goes, where, I'm getting an annulment.
Yeah, I'll bet you did.
Oh, there. So the other funny story that at that time when we were staying with Ed was his son was in Hawaii and had just had a baby and called Ed in the middle of the night and said, hey, it's a baby boy. And just so Ed knew. So the next day he tells us, hey, I got a grandson, and we're like, oh, congratulations. And then he gets another phone call that says, no, I made a mistake. It's actually a girl. And Ed is laughing. What? Didn't I tell you the difference between a girl and a boy? How do you do that? Turned out it was the umbilical cord I thought was his penis. So
Man.
so we were laughing at, yeah, that was a funny story too. I mean, that's what I remember from that. But I have some other Ed Hedrick stories, but I don't know how much time we have. So
Well, hey, so let's talk about Monica real quick. Like you told me that story about the bike ride and all that. That's a really fascinating story.
okay,
But
Monica. Yeah, I was okay at the Rose Bowl one year. We were doing MTA and it was the finals, and it was really windy, swirly winds, and everybody was having a problem. All the women, they were having a problem. They couldn't get to the disc to catch it, and so the times weren't real good. So Monica had one of the few times, so she was in the lead. So I looked around and watched everybody having a problem. So I said, well, I'm not going to use the fastback. So I pulled out my Super Pro, and I thought it's a little bigger, it'll be more stable in this wind, and I'll just pop one up. All I need to do is just catch it, and so I ended up doing that, and I got second place. So second place to Monica Lou, that's not too shabby.
Nice.
So she also designed our Flow disc. It was a 165 gram, and it was mostly for freestyle. But she was a very good artist. I have a surprise for you.
nice.
Doug bought this from her. Oh, well, when we got married, we lived in 1982. We got married the day before Valentine's Day. And we lived in Monica Lou's house in Eugene, Oregon. Doug rented it from her. So, because she was in Boulder at the time. So I have Monica Lou's
Look at
warm up
that.
from her tour of Japan.
Wow.
Wow.
So it says world's frisbee champ distance. Monica Lou, it's got her, the old IFA patch and her number.
Wow.
And then I have the pants. I mean, who fits in these? They're so tiny. They look like a child.
That's so
So
cool.
Victor went on the first frisbee tour to another country, probably, unless Victor and John Kirkland did any before that. I don't know. They might have. But so yeah, Monica was doing a bike trip across Canada. She started somewhere, I don't know if it was Toronto or in Eastern Canada somewhere. And she had a friend, I can't remember her name, and they went all across to Vancouver, and then they were coming down, they were going to stay with us. They didn't quite make it yet. They were in the San Juan Islands. There's on Orcas Island, there's Mount Constitution. So they went up there and they were riding down Mount Constitution, and they didn't have bike helmets. And Monica got a flat tire and fell and hit her head, and they had to helicopter her out to the hospital in Seattle. So it wasn't too serious, but serious enough to do that. So her friend called Doug, and Doug said, okay, no problem. I'll borrow my dad's station wagon and I'll come up and get your bikes and all your gear and you can come stay with us. So she did. He went up and got him. It was like, oh, he had to take a ferry to get there and everything. So it took several hours. So he brings her home, and Monica's at the hospital. So we wait. When she gets out a couple days later, she comes to our house. So then she's like, okay, I'm well enough to, we're going to go down to San Francisco. That's where we're finishing. So we're gonna leave. And so Doug had bought them both helmets, so they had a helmet the rest of the way. So then Monica goes, well, you have a bike, right? You're an athlete. Why don't you come with us? So I talked with Doug and I said, okay, I'll go as far as Eugene. I'll go down the coast and cut in. And so I did that much. We had several century rides, and it was really fun. We had a great time. And yeah, I was just telling Tita that. I go, yeah, Tita, that's a story you haven't heard yet. And she goes, no. So yeah, so we have stories about that. But so then later, I reconnected with Monica. She's still in Boulder. She was married to a chiropractor, but she refused to talk about frisbee to anybody. She just doesn't want to go there. I don't know why.
Hmm.
Well, I respect her wishes, so I don't talk about it and I don't go there. She's a very good photographer. Her favorite place to go take photographs is Iceland. And so I'm hoping I can see her this summer when I'm headed back to Seattle. I'm going to try and look her up. It would be nice to meet up with her again because we have a history.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, hopefully it would be incredible if she got over, well, if she wasn't so reticent about talking frisbee, because she's
yeah,
one of the ones
I
I'd
don't
love to talk to.
doubt, so I don't want to press her
Sure.
because I want to be her friend. So,
Yeah,
That's fine.
understandably so, without a doubt.
yeah, well, I have one more thing here. Last year at the Women's Disc Golf Championships, uh, oh, okay, when I went to Worlds in Portland, um, in my group was Sylvia Vokes, and we became fast friends.
Oh, right on.
There was this group called Golden Girls. And
Nice.
I wanted one, and I went over to get one, and they said, "Well, are you 70 yet?" And I said, "No, why?" And they go, "Well, you can't have one until you're 70." And I go, "Oh,
Damn.
well, I'm 70 this year, so I just had to wait till this year." So Sylvia bought one for me and gave it to me.
Oh, nice.
That's
But
awesome.
the Golden Girls said I couldn't wear it till, this year, so I'm gonna put it on there. I am now officially a Golden
All
Girl.
right. Let's salute
Awesome.
that one.
Awesome. Well, we'd like that you share that with us.
Yeah, so now I'll be wearing this year. I'm going to a tournament next month, the Wintertime Open at Oak Grove, which,
Yeah, I think I heard of it.
yeah, you've heard of it, the first basket course in the United States.
So are you staying with Susie or what are you doing there?
I'm staying with Tita and Jen Allen.
Oh, well, that
Right
won't be
on.
any fun.
No, Jen and I are flying together. It'll be a
Oh
blast.
my goodness. You
Right
better take
on.
along, get like a leash. She doesn't know a stranger.
No, I'm good friends with her. I love her to death. So
Well, I get the feeling that you don't know a stranger either, Cheryl.
I know I don't. I talk to strangers wherever I go. I just, this is a Oak Grove original.
Wow.
Nice.
Here's all the rules of disc golf. That's all they were.
That's all they were.
So were you a part of that first Wintertime Open or whatever that was called back then?
I don't know. I know I played there, but what I played more of, I was going to say is I'm the first annual La Mirada Open
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
1978, and I got second place.
Wow.
I wanted
Wow.
that story because it involved Marie Murphy.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Tell
come
us.
on
We were
with
going to
it.
ask you about that.
So Marie, I was at the time in 1978, I thought she was my major competitor. She and I would go head to head at that tournament. We played together and we just we just egged each other on to get better and better on each hole, and somebody would tee off and then I would have a good shot. And it was a beautiful course around a lake, all grass, manicured, beautiful. Only there, about 3 holes before the end, there was this teeny tiny tree with no leaves on it. It was spindly, and somehow my disc wedged in it and it wouldn't come out. We were shaking the tree. We are doing everything to try to get to. And so he beat me by 1 stroke because of that.
Oh.
So bummed. It would have made for such a nice, if we had tied, it would have made a really nice. We could have gone 18 more holes before somebody broke off the tie. We were that good with each other, and it was fun. And so yeah, so I did that one. I don't know. I think I did another year there, but I didn't save all my trophies.
Well, I
I
tell
have,
you, one of the
you know,
frustrating things looking at the PDGA website, the database is a lot of the older tournaments just weren't reported. So a lot of the older players don't have credits, to podium finishes or, for stats wise. And
right.
it's kind of frustrating because you want to go back and you want to see the whole history.
Yeah. I know Tom McCran said that, when I won the moped, that he said I won the next year too. And I was like, oh, okay. But I don't know if that was in Frisbee World or not or what.
Yes, he both. I'm looking at the PDGA website right now, and the only events that you have listed on here from '79 are the Whammo 50K and the IFA NAS Seattle meet. But
Well, uh, I have a lot. Well, there's a perpetual trophy in Washington, and it's a huge trophy, many tiers. And because the Doug Newland Memorial Disc Golf Tournament, I think, is the longest continuously run tournament from '76.
wow.
So
Wow.
I'm on 5 years, and it just travels around to the winner every year. So I know I was Oregon State Frisbee golf champion because I have that trophy.
Look at that.
And then here's one. I was a Montana State.
Oh wow.
It was accuracy, distance, freestyle. It was fall back then. MTA. Yeah. Okay, then what's this one? Oh, I was a DDC player too. I wanted to talk about that.
Yep.
Tita was my first DDC partner. And then my second partner was Joe Cahow. And then I had I can't remember her name. And then my last partner was G. Kirkland. And she and I won the Southwest National Championships in DDC in 1979.
Wow.
So we played really well together. We liked, we were both short, we were both kind of sassy, and well, I mean, well, I also know John Kirkland pretty well, because of the
Yeah, we're gonna
connection.
get to know him a little later this spring.
Oh, good. Okay. So, I was nannying for my brother who lives in San Diego. And so I was down there one year, and I called him up and I said, hey, and they invited me to play DDC, somewhere at the beach, some fields. So I went. John played with his son Cody, and G and I played for hours and hours. And we played like no time had passed. And when
Nice.
in when in reality, 35 or 40 years had passed. So when we were done, John came up to me and goes, wow, I'd like to commend you for you were playing just like you did back in the day. And I said, oh, thanks. Yeah, I said I had a lot of fun. I didn't tell him that the next day I couldn't even walk. I literally couldn't. It was like every muscle in my leg was like cement. But it was really fun. So,
So in all of these events that you'd play, that anyone would play, they were all overall events, and everybody you'd play all of them. And I know that freestyle was not your favorite, golf was your favorite, probably
right.
DDC was your second favorite. But
Probably.
I like the little note that you said you teamed up with, I believe it was Michelle Pizzoli, and I can't think of the other person,
Oh,
to
yeah.
do freestyle just in order to get the points. The two of them would have come first on their own, but they carried you enough to get you some points.
Pizzoli and Cynthia Birch were friends, and we were going up to the Vancouver, BC North American Series meet. And I knew I needed some extra points in order to get a Rose Bowl invite. So I went up to him and pleaded with them. I said, I know you guys are usually a pair, but is there any way you could do a trio? And they thought about it. And I said, I need it for the points because I can't do it on my own. And they said, okay, we'll take you in our group. And I said, okay, here's the deal. they always like to pick the music. And I said, I've got a song, but I don't want to tell you what it is. I want it to be a surprise. And they said, okay. So then, they were telling me the specifics of who likes what throw, which spin and blah, blah, blah. And I I actually did pretty well. I mean, I'm someone who can't really nail delay, but I can do trick throws and catches and I can throw the spins, but I kept sending Cynthia the wrong spin and she's like, Sheryl. So anyway, so we start out and the song I picked was the Beatles' Help. Help,
Nice.
because I needed help to get to
Yeah.
the and so they started laughing. And so we did a whole routine and we ended up getting second place, which still was really good. But I know they could have got first on their own. So, that's what friends did back then is they helped each
Yeah.
other out. So
You get by with a little help from your friends, right?
help from my friends to make it. So I was in Santa Barbara. I think it was Santa Barbara. It could have been somewhere in California, but I went out to lunch with Cynthia and Michelle, and there was some live music, a musician playing and singing. So Cynthia goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the restroom." Now she leaves. Well, she didn't go to the restroom. She went up to the musician and said, "Can you play that song that's popular out right now called um, Short People Got Nobody?" So, so she comes back and she looks at Michelle and smiles. And this guy starts playing that song. And they start giggling. And I'm looking at him like, you didn't go to the bathroom. You went up and told him.
Played a
They,
prank on your old friend.
they thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, oh, God. People are always making fun of me being short. So I'm used to it.
Well, we've been having an amazing time. Love your stories. You've got a million more, and I know we don't want to keep you much longer than we have to, but I know Mace in his conversation with you the other day, and he made a little note for me, and I'm just going to tee this up. You've got a dream group that you're possibly hoping to live or see it happen this year at the Wintertime Open. Who's your dream group?
Oh, my foursome or fivesome?
Yeah.
It was,
Yes.
yeah, it was going to be me, Jen Allen, Stork, Bill Nye, and Tita, I think, to play in a group.
Wow.
So we'll see if we can make that happen.
We'll see
'Cause
who gets the last laugh in that group too. There's a lot of big talkers in that group.
Well, Bill Nye is into golf now, and so he came to Scott Stokely's clinic, and I was there too. And so he only plays with Stork. So I've already asked Stork, hey, can you see if Bill's available? I mean, he could be anywhere around the planet at that day, but we'll see if we can make it happen.
Right on. And so all those, if anybody is out there and interested in going back, look at the Jammer Journal. One of the things that really intrigued me and made me laugh a lot was we're dealing with desktop publishing before there was any autocorrect, before there was any spell check. The spell check was the person reading it themselves. And so,
Right.
you as the editor of the journal, if someone writes something, you look at it and go, is this misspelled? This has got to be misspelled. But Bill Nye had a very interesting Steve Martin type wit when it comes to language too, and reading your letters back and forth to each other about he's trying to say, I can't even remember the words now, but like his particular spelling of the word everyone or little things like that, and you're saying, well, I'm sorry, I can't read hieroglyphics. It really comes across as funny. That relationship, obviously, hopefully, it still stands this test of time from those early ultimate. No.
In Pasadena recently, Tita took me to the Planetary Society and we met him, and I got a real nice picture with him. It's on my Facebook page. Yeah,
That's
because
cool.
he was my ultimate coach. So yeah, we have a lot of stories and memories, and
Well,
they
that's
were
one thing that's so great about all of the Frisbee family is that once you've made that connection, it just comes back around again and again, and you kind of just pick up right where you left off. It's like, holy cow, how are you? Give me the
Well, yeah,
rundown, catch me up on this and that. And then, you end up spending the afternoon and maybe the evening together. And, it's like there was never any time in between you. And could have been
well,
decades.
when Tita planned this panel for the legends to be at the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships in North Carolina, I didn't have a place to stay. So she said, well, here's Michelle Marini's phone number. She lives there. So I called and I got to stay with the Marinis. And so I was there for like 5, 6 days. And so, I mean, we hadn't seen each other since 1981, maybe.
Wow.
My Michelle Marini story leading into She's Next, right?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to tee that up.
Was she came to our North American Series meet, and I think it was I don't know, late 70s. And we were known for having a real good dinner at the tournament. And one of our friends was a Norwegian fisherman up in Alaska, and so he would fill our freezer with Copper River King salmon every year.
Wow.
So we were spoiled. That's like the best salmon. It's so amazing. So he had just come back and he donated a lot of Copper River for our tournament. And so he was there and we were barbecuing it. And Michelle had never had salmon before and she was kind of hesitant. And I said, "Oh my God, Michelle, here, I got a real big piece for you." And I said, "This is the best salmon in the world. It's what they send. They fly it to the White House for the president. It's so amazing." So, I gave her a piece and she loved it, thought it was great. And then later I thought, oh, I feel bad for Michelle. Now she's going back to Rochester, New York. The only salmon she's going to get out there is Atlantic salmon, which tastes bland to me. And, like she's not going to get the good salmon out there like we have in Seattle. So I kind of felt bad for her, but, I don't know. But that was my Michelle story, I guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna give her some really killer salmon.
We'll be sure to bring that up with her when we have
Ask
one.
if we've had any salmon compared since then. Well, we didn't even get into the freestylers, but oh well. We had a
Well,
big group of freestylers in Seattle.
but you never really was it. You didn't really like it because you weren't that good at it, or you just weren't very interested in that.
Um, yeah, it wasn't my thing, you know.
It's curious, when you think about the big spectacles of the 70s and the frisbee, showing up doing halftime shows at the Kingdom or the WFC finals at the Rose Bowl. Certain of the overall events obviously lend themselves very well to the spectator display, and ultimate obviously is one of the big things. Freestyle just is a natural performative thing.
Is more though. It's like everybody's watching 2 or 3 people perform to music, and
Yeah.
it's more stressful. It has to flow. It's different than doing a big show in the Kingdom with Ultimate. You're on two big teams, you blend in. It's not just you, but in freestyle, you're pretty much under the microscope. So that
Sure.
I stray away from those kind of place. I don't like to be in that kind of a environment. I was a very good freestyle judge, however.
Oh,
So I
right
often
on.
yeah, I often judged it because I knew what was difficult, what wasn't, and stuff like that because of my roller skating background. And I'm real good at watching Olympics with ice skating. I'll tell you right away when they screwed up,
Wow.
Right on.
And
I always like watching all the stuff in the Olympics too, just because it's the Olympics.
right.
So there's one more thing that you and I talked about, and I don't think I want to wait and talk about it another time. So you were firmly on the scene when the transition went from the frisbee to the beveled edge disc, correct? I mean, you'd been playing for several years leading up to that. With
Yeah,
the,
and well, and you have muscle memory. As an athlete, you know, in any sport, you have muscle memory. So, you know, mine was pretty well ingrained at that point. And when the beveled edge came out, a lot of us didn't like them. And we said so. I mean, we just said so to each other. You know, we didn't say it on a national scene or something, but we just didn't like them because to us it was like throwing a rock. It just cut through the air and dropped. It didn't float. It didn't fly like what we were using. You know, like I said, you know, we had the one disc that I used for everything, and I had to
Faber
know
mid-range putter.
I had to know how to make it curve right or curve left. I could roll it. I could do upside down shots. Oh, there's my marker mini.
Oh, that's a mini. Okay.
Yeah, that's a mini. I use
Sorry.
that. I use mine and I use Doug's for marker minis. I had at the time I had the largest Moonlighter collection in the world back then.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't have it anymore, but I kept a few of them. But I mean, we had to learn how to throw all the different throws with our disc. And so when you out comes the beveled edge and it's just used for one kind of throw. To us, that was like, well, that's kind of dumb. I don't know. You know, kind of that doesn't make sense. Plus, it doesn't fly, it doesn't float. And a lot of us on the West Coast like to play at the beach. Well, you're not going to throw that at the beach and play with it.
Right.
And you're not going to throw it in MTA or TRC. You're not going to throw it, you know, in other events. You can't DDC with a beveled edge. You know, you can't play guts with it. You'll kill yourself.
Right, for sure. Well, you know, and it just kind of makes me, you know, when we got to this point in the conversation the other night, I couldn't help but ask the question, do you think that the beveled edge disc led to the decline of the interest in all the overall events? And I've thought a lot about that since we talked, and it kind of seems like it must have.
Well, I don't know if it was the main reason. It just happened at the same time, maybe. I don't know.
Which, and that's obviously quite possible too.
Yeah, but it did kill the other events, I think. And it's interesting that one of the first beveled edges was called a rock. That was humorous because that's what we used to call, you know, they're just like throwing a rock. So I kind of exited at that point in time, because I was married and I was pregnant and I had 2 kids, and so I exited competition. I wasn't playing. I was busy with 2 little kids, and then in 1989, my husband died. So then I became very busy. I had a 6 and a 4-year-old, so I didn't have any time for disc golf anymore. Now, Tom Lander did get me to do one tournament it was 1993 or 1994. And it was a course in Seattle, a short, small course. And I actually did quite well. It was fun. But I hadn't played since 1983, maybe. You know, and everyone was using beveled edges, and I show up with this. I show up a little bit late, but I still have time to join these 2 guys on the first hole. So they throw me in with them, and they're both, you know, young, like 22, 23, and they see that I'm in their group, and they're like not happy about it.
And rolling their eyes at your disc, your golf bag selection, right?
Rolling their eyes, going, "Look what she's throwing," you know, like being at me. They're like, "We got this old lady in our group," and I wasn't even that old. And so I just ignored them and told them my name on the scorecard, and then they both teed off, and they were so rude. They didn't even wait for me to tee off. They walked off. So I was like, wow, is that the way we're going to be? So I had to wait for them to move out of the way so I could tee off. So I get to the second hole. They didn't even watch me throw, right? Because they're gone. So we get to the second hole and they go, "What'd you get?" And I told them, I don't remember what I got, but So the second hole goes the same way. They both tee off, oops, and they walk off and leave me. So I ended up actually scoring better than they did on that hole. So on the third hole, I was up first. And it was up at the top of a hill, straight shot, a corridor down to the basket, but trees everywhere behind it and on the sides. So I take my light plastic and I'm standing there and I go all the way down and hit the chains. I didn't get on, but I hit the chains and they both look at me and go, "Who are you?"
Nice.
And, I ignored them. I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't say a word. And I just ignored them and walked off like they had done to me. Well, then, I beat him on that hole also. And then I saw Ralph down there. He had just gone in the bushes and couldn't find his disc. And he saw what I was throwing and he goes, "Damn, I think I'm going to bring my light plastic out and play with it." He goes, "I think I would have done better than what I'm doing right now." So, I finished the tournament and I did fine. And so then these two guys that were in my group are asking everybody, "Who is this lady in our group?" And they're all going, "Oh, that's Sheryl Newland." And they're like, "Who's that? Doug Newland's wife? The ninth hole is named after Doug." Oh, okay. Then I didn't play again until 2016. So Tita had been coming up at the Potlatch Ultimate. It's the biggest ultimate tournament in the world. I don't know if it still is, but it was at the time. And so I met with her and she brought me up some Innova discs and taught me how to throw them. And so I went back and practiced. And so I found out, I rejoined the what?
Excuse me. That was I'm
So I
still shaking it out.
I had to qualify, at this tournament. So I went to it and qualified for the next, so I could be at Worlds. And so I got to go. My daughter was living outside of Portland at the time, so she was excited. She kind of tricked me. There was a tournament before that at Blue Lake, which is a real nice course. And so she goes, "Mom, I want to take you to this new park we got here." So as soon as we pull in, "Oh my God, there's a pole basket right there. Oh my God, oh, stop over there. I gotta go meet the tournament director." And she's laughing, right? So I go meet the guy and he asked me my PDGA number and I tell him. And I had women coming up, literally kissing my feet. And I was like, "Don't do that. What the hell are you doing?" "Oh my God, thank you." And I was like, "For what?" So it was kind of funny. But so I decided to enter and it was a lot of fun. And I did very well the first round, but when you're 60 and up, don't make us do another round of 18 the same day because it's a long course full of out of bounds. It was like my second round just totally sucked. It was like two different people had come to golf that day. My first round was good. My second round was horrid. So anyway, but I still had fun. I got bit. So then Tita invites me to this panel and I go and I watch them. I just got both my knees replaced during COVID. So I didn't enter, but I watched them and walked around the course and said, "Hey, I could do this again." So it was pouring down rain one day and I'm sitting there soaked and I'm like, so I said, "You know what?" So I renewed my PDGA membership. I said, "I'm going to go next year to this tournament, wherever it is." So I went and told Jen Allen, I said, "I just renewed my membership and I'm going to play." And she was almost crying. She was so happy.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She said, "This is what I love about this sport is that, it can ignite somebody again, reignite them." So I'm in two leagues here in Phoenix, the Golden Throwers, which are for people over 50, and that's really fun. And we rotate different courses. And And then I'm in the Phoenix Ladies League, and they play at Vista every Sunday.
Right on.
Nice.
I
We're
think it
both
was
really good buddies with
so
Keith.
in the we have uh-huh. Well, I go to spinners on the green and get discs now, and they know who I am finally.
Yeah, Keith's an old friend of ours for sure. And plus
Oh,
Gimli, and obviously, I mean, yeah, I'll be out there soon
okay.
for
Are you
the
coming
for the
to the
memorial.
yeah,
Yep.
because you're with those trophies. So in the group with the golden throwers, we have handicaps, and to be honest, I don't understand how it works. But I play these long courses at Fountain Hills, and there's tons of out of bounds, and I do really terrible. But the smaller, shorter courses, I'm getting better at my rollers, so I can do pretty well on those. So my handicaps all over the place, and it was really bad. And then we went and played this short course, and I did really well. And Steen had won the course, adjusted record with her handicap, like when we played it earlier a couple months ago. So she sees me and she goes, "Hey, what'd you shoot?" And I told her, and she goes, "So what's your handicap?" And I told her, and she goes, "Oh, so if you subtract your score from that," she goes, "Oh my God, I think you just got the new record." And I'm laughing,
Really?
going, "How did that happen?" She goes, "Think you got it by a lot. It may never be broken again by any." And I go, "Oh, that is too funny."
Well, truly welcome back.
I know. So don't expect anything like that, but I'm just here to have fun. So
Well, you've
I
definitely
think you're doing
given
a fine job of that.
fine job of that, and you've put the good times in the good times hour for sure. We can't thank you enough for taking the time and the attention to stop with us and tell us all these tales. It's been truly inspiring and amazing, and I'm glad that you're getting the just recognition that you deserve because you've done so much work to grow the sport.
oh, thanks. And now we can all go watch the football games.
There you go.
Oh yeah, right on.
Don't tell Mace what's happened already. He's
Yeah, I'm
DVRing
going straight to the DVR.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Chiefs fan.
Oh, okay.
Guess you can tell there. Well,
Well, when we started this, so
I hope
who knows?
you have a wonderful wonderful day. Thanks for doing this. I hope you continue to enjoy all the frisbee flights out there, and best of good luck at the Wintertime Open. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, that'll be great
And,
if you. When I
and then
see
I'm
you in when I
in
see you
Austin.
in Scottsdale, I want to hear the story about that grouping,
About the what?
about the dream group.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll see if it happened. We'll give you a picture if it
All
does.
right, sweet.
Sweet.
All
Okay.
right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Sheryl. And
For all
Paul,
you
good work.
do.
What's that?
I said thanks for all you do too.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
that.
It's our pleasure. It's been a blast. And like I told you the other night, I love to tell stories, but I love hearing them just as much. So thanks for stopping by and telling us your stories. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you,
All
Cheryl.
right, see ya.
Bye.